Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. This is our Facebook Live version of our podcast here at Absolute Trust Counsel, and I am Kirsten Howe, the host of Absolute Trust Talk. Welcome. I'm very glad to have you here. I'm very excited. I have a really great guest today for you here, Jody Irons from Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging. For most of our estate planning clients, the question of who will step in and manage things if they become unable to do that for themselves is fairly straightforward. They have a spouse or they have children or other family members, but that's not always true. And it's not always the case that even if they have those people, that those are the right people to step in and help them. They may have family members who live too far away to really be helpful also. So there are a variety of solutions available for those clients, such as bank, trust departments, and licensed professional fiduciaries, which can be very good choices. And for some clients, another resource, the Diablo Valley Foundation, might be a better fit. And we're going to talk about that and why, and all the many services that they provide. So, I do things on this podcast. I talk about areas of the law that people need to know about, but I really love it when I can talk about a community resource that people need to know about and don't know about. And that's the case today. I'm really excited. And I'm going to introduce my guest formally in just a minute. But for right now, as you know, if you're a regular viewer, I have some housekeeping issues to get through. And first of all, we didn't show up on Facebook Live last week when we normally do. We're here today on a Friday, which is not our normal schedule. We had some technical issues, but here we are. So just bear with us. Okay, so the housekeeping. We are taping this, of course, as we always do. It will be a video available on our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com. In a few days. It'll also be available on YouTube if you want to just go directly there. We have a YouTube channel, and we turned this into a podcast, which is a purely audio, and that also is found on our website, but you can also find it wherever you normally find podcasts, such as on your phone by pushing on the podcast icon. So that's one thing. It will be recorded. The other piece of housekeeping is at the end of my conversation with Jody, we will take questions from the audience. And if you have a question, go ahead and type it into the comment section there on your screen, and I will ask the question of Jody when we get to the end. So just go ahead and do that. All right, housekeeping out of the way. Now I'm going to introduce my guest, Jody Irons. Jody has served for over 30 years in the nonprofit sector. Her personal mission has been to, in all things, affect positive change. So before she came to Diablo Valley Foundation, she worked with a variety of really great nonprofits, most of which you've heard of. The Epilepsy Foundation of Northern California, March of Dimes. She spent a lot of time working for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, March of Dimes, United Cerebral Palsy, YWCA, and Friday Night Live, which I'm not sure I know what that is. So she, lots of experience in this nonprofit sector, and now she is the executive director at Diablo Valley Foundation, and she is also a licensed professional fiduciary, which is one of the many, many services that the foundation offers to its clients. She's a mom. She has 3 kids, and she's been living here in the East Bay for over 40 years. So welcome, Jody. I'm really so honored to have you here. I know how busy you are, recently moving offices and dealing with all of that, and yet here you are. So thank you. I really appreciate your joining us today.
I appreciate the invitation, Kirsten, and it's an honor to be able to talk with you about a mission that's very near and dear to my heart. So I appreciate the invitation and look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, and as I said, I think your organization is just such an important community resource. And I certainly know that not all my clients know about it. I just was recommending it to a client yesterday, as a matter of fact, and she was very pleased to hear about all the things that you have going, which we will in just a minute. But first, let's start by talking a little bit about the history of the foundation.
Absolutely. So Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging was founded in 1975 and by a group in Rossmore, actually. One of the famous members of the group was Dean Lesher of the Lesher Foundation. So he and a group of community folks got together, and it used to be called the Rossmore Foundation for the Aging. And then it transitioned to Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging. And we have served in this capacity of our focus, and our mission is to ensure that seniors have the financial security as well as the care and support to age in place, whatever that looks like for them. So it's a pretty fantastic mission to be able to serve.
I agree with you. And so tell us about the types of clients that you serve. Why do they turn to the foundation, and talk about their income and asset levels just generally, so people get a sense of who you serve?
Right, absolutely. Well, as you'd mentioned earlier, our target, if we were to have a target, are those seniors who, for whatever reason, perhaps don't have any children and their partners are passed, or there are a couple that no kids, or perhaps their kids are, as you mentioned, geographically not ideal. They're halfway around the world, or even down in Southern California.
Which is halfway around the world.
Around the world, right? Exactly. San Francisco apparently is halfway around the world with traffic these days. But so that's sort of the target. But frankly, it's any senior who need support. We have clients who do have 3 to 4 kids, or even 2 kids, that they just don't want to burden with the responsibilities of marshaling the assets and walking them through the end of their life stages. So there are a number of variety of reasons that we can be involved with a family. So it's not just folks like orphan seniors, is a phrase that they call. They just need somebody to serve for them and advocate for them and support them as they age. And then also there's the care management piece, and I'll get into that. But it's the reason folks come to us as well is the succession planning, because you're naming an organization rather than an individual fiduciary to serve in those legal roles. If something changes with the fiduciary, the organization is still there to support. So it provides that insurance and that succession planning, because many folks are creating their estates when they're in their late 60s or early 70s, and for me that's fairly young for the clients that we serve, and they don't age into our services for a couple of decades. So really knowing that you've got this solid organization that's been around since 1975 is very assuring for many of our clients.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of the other 2 professional alternatives. You have an individual professional fiduciary eventually, but you are also signed up with an organization that's going to be there as long as a bank is going to be there. So you kind of get both.
Exactly. And another factor for DVFA as a professional fiduciary is we don't have asset limits. Some professional fiduciaries or some corporate, perhaps the banking institutions, they require an asset limit, which we don't. Our mission is to serve all of the seniors that need that support to the extent that we can.
Right. Yeah. Which is an important point. So I as I understand it, you have 3 types of services that you provide, and you just mentioned the care management. So why don't we talk about those one at a time, so that people are aware of the full array of services you provide?
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with our fiduciary services and our money management services, because I think this is the most critical piece for seniors and folks who are aging. Financial abuse is the number one type of elder abuse out there.
Sure.
So for
And
us,
everywhere, it's pervasive.
it's everywhere, and is unfortunately often perpetrated by the trusted loved ones, the families, right?
Yeah.
So it's really startling. So to be able to be involved and with the seniors as they age, and we have something called our bill pay services, where we go and support, and we'll write the checks, but the clients still have the authority and the control to manage their finances. But if they start to lose capacity, then we have the opportunity to serve as their durable power of attorney for finance, and then we can manage their money on their behalf, make sure their bills are paid and that the taxes are submitted and property taxes are covered, and all of those financial pieces that folks need to do on a day-to-day basis. Along the lines of the finances, we can also serve as trustee or executor for a person. Again, if they don't have loved ones or anybody to serve on their behalf. And then the other fourth piece of the fiduciary role, but which transitions into the care management role, is the durable power of attorney for health.
Right.
And I think this is where we are also a distinctive option, is because not a lot of professional fiduciaries necessarily offer that.
Right.
They focus just on the finances. But we have a program that's designed to do the umbrella of those pieces and to be able to advocate for the clients, much like a kid would or a family member would. We had a tagline many years ago called "Your Professional Relative." While we are a nonprofit organization, most of our fiduciary services are fee-based, but our mission is to keep seniors financially secure. So we work with folks to ensure that this is not a barrier or prohibitive relationship for their long-term care and support. So our care management program, we ensure you go to doctor's appointments and your medications are filled. And maybe if you own your home, you have a sewer issue, or, whatever, and your heater doesn't work, all of those life kinds of things, we can provide that support. If you are hospitalized, we can advocate for you and make sure that your health issues, perhaps they've changed since you've had a meeting with the doctor and they need to know of these new medications or these new issues or whatever. So that's really a very critical piece of what we do for care management. And we don't have to be your durable power of attorney for health to do that role. We have many clients whose family members do have that legal power of attorney, but you're
kind of the boots on the ground there.
Exactly. They don't. They're like you said, Southern California or San Francisco.
Yeah. Or East Coast.
Or East Coast, as I mentioned. But even we do have some folks. Some of the children, the adult children, are throughout the state of California. But we're close, so if there's an emergency, we can respond very quickly. Like you said, boots on the ground.
Yeah. So you're kind of like you said we're the professional relative. You're the oldest daughter, is what you are.
Essentially. I mean, it generally falls, for any sons out there, it generally falls to the oldest daughter.
To the daughter. Yes. If there aren't daughters, it sometimes falls to the daughter-in-law.
In-law. Yeah. Well, it is. There's something very caregiving about the female nature in general, so it's all good. So that's the care management piece, and we provide some care coordinating within the care services. And then our third but before I move on, so we have the financial and then the care management. Within the financial, we do have a program for folks who fall on the federal poverty level piece. They get like $2,500 a month. Like, they can't afford at all. We have an army to pay us, not even close, right? So we have an army of volunteers, of amazing financial experts who volunteer for the organization and do that bill pay kinds of things. They might do detective work to figure out who wrote that $300 check, or I didn't write that. That's not my signature. So we have
Mhm.
those folks helping and advocating for seniors who may not be able to do so, helping with the computers, right, in this technological age. So we have a fantastic program there. Under the care management services in our volunteer programs is a friendly visitor, friendly telesure. So we shifted from friendly visitor, which is volunteers just going out and meeting with clients just to fight isolation. Isolation is also a huge risk
Oh, yeah.
for
Yeah.
seniors.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. As we've
and
discovered in the last year and a half. Yeah.
COVID has really brought a lot of these issues to light, and that isolation is a key one. So we
Yeah.
shifted right after the COVID to do telesure, a telephone assurance program, right?
Nice. Very
So
nice.
our third and final kind of area of service is our adult daycare respite program. It's a
Oh,
social day program down in Danville. Not open yet. We're getting a lot of phone calls. When are you going to open? We run
mhm.
3 days a week and basically 4 hours a day. And it's targeted towards folks living with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Sure. Yeah.
And then that gives the caregivers
The
a break,
caregivers get a break. Yeah.
and
Okay.
our clients, they call it the club. Going to the club,
Nice.
it gives them something different to do, get out of the house and socialize, and music and exercise, and it's a really fabulous program. So we are that's sort of everything in a nutshell.
Okay. And that respite program is you said 3 days a week
It's 3 days a week right now. Well, when we open, Monday,
when you
Wednesday,
open, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 to 2.
Okay.
And so, and it's a very, very, very minor fee for service. But we also
Okay.
have scholarships available for
Okay.
families for seniors who may not be able to afford
Afford it.
to do
And
that.
okay. Do you have a waiting list for that?
At the moment, no,
Oh.
because of COVID. We have lost clients, but we do get pretty full pretty quickly. We
Yeah.
have had a lot of people calling and saying, "We heard you had a program. Are you open?" So we don't have a waiting list, but we have a list of folks who are already calling and saying, "Let me know when you're open." We do have an onboarding process. We need to make sure we have all the appropriate medical forms, and that this is the right fit for the client. We do request that they do not necessarily, if they need the one-to-one, that they arrange for a caregiver to come with them. We won't say, but if it's higher, if they have a 2-to-1, then we might need to direct them to a different program. But so we really do. That's what distinguishes a social day program from the more those programs that serve the more medically fragile. So
I see. Okay. And I think that we should talk a little bit about your fees just generally. You
absolutely,
are a nonprofit organization, and so therefore possibly your fees tend to be a little bit
yes,
more
lower.
reasonable. Hmm.
They're under market rate, definitely.
Hmm.
So at the moment, because if you're watching this, like 3 or 5 years after it's taped,
Sure.
just kidding.
You got to
Um,
adjust for inflation.
we're going
Yes.
to adjust for, yeah, we have to adjust for inflation. So our rate for the fiduciary services, if it's billed on an hourly basis, we generally the distinction is if the full value of your estate is $1 million or more,
Uh-huh.
we are actively serving as your trustee, then we do a percentage, and it's
Got
the current business practice of a percent, 1% of the trust assets
Yeah.
annually.
Which
Um,
is very, very competitive.
very competitive and
Very competitive.
and it's a kind of court monitored in many ways. We don't do a lot of court monitored cases, but that really reflects the probate code as well, which we
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
Um, if we're doing, if you're under $1 million, if your assets are under $1 million, then we charge hourly at $125 an hour for fiduciary services.
Which is very, very reasonable.
Very, very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yes. I've heard rumors of what other professional fiduciaries, but that, I just focused on what we do. We try to leverage our position as a nonprofit organization to get grant funding and general donations. And we encourage anybody out there who is writing their trusts and want to consider a nonprofit organization as a recipient of some donations. That's always an option out there, but that's why we can keep our fees low.
Sure.
Our care management is also at $125 an hour, but keep in mind, this is not the kind of care management where somebody goes into the house and spends 4 hours a day with you at the house. This is global care management. So we work to keep our time at a minimum and make sure that the services that you need are built, are to an organization that has that expertise, but is a lot less expensive.
Right. So care, just for the listeners, care management does not mean care.
Right. Direct care. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
You are not home care providers, but you manage all of that. Yeah.
Precisely. Thank you, Kirsten. When you think about having somebody in the home to provide the care and make sure they're either going to the restroom or they're getting fed or their laundry is done. We don't do that, but we find those folks.
Right.
And we work with the ones that have the higher, the higher service ratings because they're all assessed by the state and all of that kind of stuff. So we make sure that the folks that are serving in that are from reputable, licensed, purely vetted, organizations, those care agencies.
Right. And you are able to keep an eye on those people as you go along and make sure things are going well.
Exactly.
Whereas the oldest daughter who is living on the East Coast might not be able to do that.
Exactly. And or if there's a concern about perhaps they're an assisted living facility or a skilled nursing facility and there's some kind of concern about the care, then we jump in and are able to mitigate and work with those situations. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to turn to our audience questions in just a second, but I just
time has flown. My goodness.
I know. But I want to point out to people, in case you missed it, because Jody was pretty, I don't know what the word is. She was
too verbose is the word you're looking for.
No. I meant kind of let that slip in. But you are a nonprofit.
Yes.
You are a 501c3.
Correct.
People, you don't have to wait until you die and provide for the foundation in your will or trust. You could make a donation. So that's not what this is about. That's not why you're here today.
No.
We're not pitching that, but I'm just letting people know, that's how you are able to provide the services you provide at such reasonable rates. And people really do need this. I know plenty of seniors who don't have anybody, who don't have family members, and plenty of them who can't afford to pay, the market rate for the kind of things that you do. So just throwing that out there. All right.
Thank you.
Let's turn to our audience questions. Okay. How do you vet your volunteers who help with the bookkeeping and bill pay and the forensic kind of work? How do you make sure that they're qualified?
Absolutely.
And reliable?
Very, very important question, because this is one of the most valuable, the two most important pieces of a person's life in a general rule are their finances and their health, right? And so when you bring these people in who aren't paid by the organization, that can be very disconcerting. So they go through an interview process with our volunteer coordinator, who is a gerontologist and also has been with the organization for about 3 years. So she makes sure that they have the financial acumen. We do a background check, a pretty thorough background check, and we check references as well. And then once they have gone through the background check and we make sure there's no criminal background and all of the important pieces, they go through an extensive training on that, on the role and process that they would be undertaking.
Okay, good. All right. Can your foundation serve as trustee of a special needs trust?
Yes, we can. Absolutely. We actually have a handful of special need trusts for which we serve
Okay.
as trustee. Yep.
That's an important point because not all trustees can handle that.
No,
It
it
can
is.
be
It's more
complicated. Yeah.
correct. I will offer it's not necessarily a preference because of the demand of our services, but we won't say no. We just it's like everything else. It's a case by case basis. I would want to make sure that we were in the right position in terms of to what extent is it a special needs, right? They can range on the spectrum of
course. Yeah.
what level. I will offer, since the question is brought up, that we do not serve as conservators. That is one thing that
Okay.
our organization does not do in terms, there's rare exceptions, and that would be for existing clients that had come to us from a different situation. But right off the bat,
and then they become conserved. Okay.
correct.
That's
right,
that's
exactly.
a good point. Yeah, because some fiduciaries will do that and some just won't.
Right, exactly.
That's where you are.
Yes.
Okay. Like some lawyers will do that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are unique cases. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you help elderly, low-income people find and access assistance from other programs? In other words, is that kind of part of
Yes.
what you do for your clients?
Very much so. Very much so. In fact, whoever had that question must have been reading my mind. Once you become a client of DVFA, we don't abandon you. We have, and what I mean by that is some people may outlive their money, and then what, right? So we're extremely knowledgeable about the various resources and programs that are available. We often help folks on the low income make those connections. We know about assisted living waiver programs. We are experts in Medi-Medi, Medi-Cal, Medicare, IHSS. So, and we actually are working with APS in a contractual basis. So we've got strong community ties, which helps us support those, Meals on Wheels and the Ombudsman program and Choice in Aging and all of those fantastic organizations that do support seniors. Without question, we partner with them, we find out what the resources are, and we attempt to make those connections.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of resources out there. People don't know how to find them.
Correct.
And it's good to know that you actually do know who those organizations are and what they do.
We try. There's sometimes we learn something new. We didn't know about that. Okay, this is great. A new piece for our resources to be able to connect people. Yes, exactly.
Great. All right. Well, that's it for our viewer questions. Jody, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. I really enjoyed it, and I think that our viewers must have learned a lot. I certainly did. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Again, for you who are listening and watching, it's Jody Irons with the Diablo Valley Foundation for the Aging.
Great.
Thanks again.
And thank you, Kirsten. This has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate the opportunity. A lot of great times. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now. All right. So I hope you got something out of that. I think that is a very important organization for people to know about, and they're up to a lot of good things, helping a lot of people who need help. And I certainly learned a lot from Jody, even more than I knew before as a result of working with her. If you like our podcast, I hope you'll go to our podcast site and subscribe and like it and tell your friends about it. Again, you can always find episodes on our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com. But when you subscribe and share and like, those things help our visibility, which helps more people find all the resources that we have. And we have a lot of resources for you. Check out on our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com. All the episodes are there. We have newsletters, we have blog posts, all kinds of things. So don't hesitate to go check that out. And we will be back again with another episode in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. We've gotten off schedule a little bit, but I hope you'll join us then. And I look forward to connecting with you next time.